to Coffee and Calacas. I'm your host, Joe. So, let's dive in and get spooky on this first episode of Coffee and Calacas, brought to you by a good sip of coffee. Ooh, that's good. Okay, so where to begin? If you heard the trailer, then you heard the story of Ghost Hands, as I like to call it. Ghost Hands is a true story, and I will get into that. Now, if you are from the area of Brownsville, Texas, then you know how rich the area is in history, and you totally understand what it's like to get spooked here. You've either seen the university, or you've been a student there, or you visited there, but you know the history behind it. Okay. So, those who are not from this area, let me just give you a little brief history. Brownsville, Texas is located on the southernmost tip of Texas, right next to the border of Mexico. We are right next to the beach as well, and we are the home of SpaceX as well, which is something fairly new, but it's something that will change the history of Brownsville, honestly. Brownsville was named after Jacob Brown, which is why we have Jacob Brown Auditorium. It's a center of sorts where, you know, music has been performed, events have taken place, and whatnot. That area where Jacob Brown is at used to be a fort. Those who live here are aware of it. Those who are not from around here, that was a fort where an army base was stationed. And eventually it became decommissioned, and, you know, that area was bought up by the city and eventually to the university. And so what that area is now, it's now the Texas Southmost College and the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley, formerly known as UTV, for those who are Scorpions out there. You know what I mean. Anyways, so this story takes place back in the, I want to say 80s. This story was told to me by an individual who used to work at the Texas Southmost College library back at that time. And it's interesting because, I mean, you know there's ghosts out there. I mean, those who believe, you know they're out there. And those who don't, I mean, hey, you have a right to be skeptical. And honestly, had I not grown up in this area, I might be skeptical about ghosts itself. But with what I've seen and with what I've heard, I'm a believer. I'll admit that. So this story goes back in that time around the 80s. And this individual is working there as a clerk at the library. And they had a coworker, and that coworker, you know, young, beautiful, you know, young woman, and also secretary there. I won't mention names, you know, just for privacy reasons. But this is a true story. And maybe in the future, I'll invite the individual who told me that story on this show, just so, you know, she can retell it. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and do that for you. So the story goes that this individual who worked there worked with this young girl. And if you worked at the library at the time, you understood that they had rolling bookshelves. So rolling bookshelves are these huge, big, you know, monstrosities of things that were loaded with books, and you had to crank them, you know, manually crank them out and, you know, display them every day, and then you would roll them back up, you know, using that same crank and lock them away for the night. So if you work there during closing time, as the college was closing for the night, you know, people, you know, you crank up the bookshelves, lock them back up, put away your stuff, and as people were leaving for the night, you know, as they would, you would hear the bookshelves uncranking themselves, and people would be like, should we go check? And sure enough, upon checking, what do you see? The bookshelves have been uncranked and they're rolled out, and there you go, recranking them again. Okay. So that was nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, it was kind of expected at that time, if you worked there, you already knew, you understood that that was going to happen. So it was no big deal. What changes is that, this young girl starts working there, and she's typing at her desk. They had those typewriters back then, were processors. And as she's typing, she would feel a pair of hands touch the back of her neck. And it became like a routine thing, almost on a daily basis. She would be sitting there typing, and all of a sudden, she would feel these cold hands touch her neck. And this was usually, or as I was told, was like right after lunchtime. So it's assuming, oh, it's one of my coworkers playing a prank on me, they know it's gonna spook me, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna get them better. So what does she do? She grabs a mirror and places it in front of her, in a way to position it, where she can see who is standing behind her. Okay. So let me just pause right there on that and, sidetrack a little bit to this. So I am petrified of mirrors. Okay. I don't know what it is. I mean, I can see myself in the mirror, no problem, get myself ready, apply makeup or do my hair, whatever it takes. Okay. But if I have to use a mirror at night, oh my goodness, I get chills. I do. Something about the mirror just kind of freaks me out a little bit, I'm not sure if it goes back to when I first heard this story, or it's just something deeper. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere, but I feel like my deal with mirrors started when I saw that movie. There's a mirror scene that really spooked me out. It's a scene where Richard Gere is looking in the mirror, and then I believe as he turns around, his image just stays frozen in the mirror, and it's, doesn't look like him. I mean, it's him, but it's not him. It's his other self, and I'll admit, it scared me. And to this day, I'm very iffy about mirrors. Rather use a camera to maybe apply some lip gloss, fix up my hair, than use a mirror. Like I said, I do have a mirror, and I do use it to get ready in the mornings, or in the afternoons to go out. But it's not something I am a fan of. I have gotten up in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, and when I open the restroom door, we have this huge mirror in my restroom, about the size of the actual, restroom itself. It's huge. It's a wall-sized mirror. And no joke, every time that I do get up at night and go in there, I do shield my face like this because I am afraid to see myself in the mirror. Not sure why. But what's, for me, I can't even have the lights off. Like, I need to have the lights on in order to, feel safe. So the fact that I have to have the lights on and then I have to pass by the mirror, it spooks me even more because I don't like the dark. And here I am, I need the lights on, but I don't like the mirror either. So it's like, I'm stuck between, a rock and a hard place. So let me get back to the whole mirror story with this girl at the university, okay? Sorry about my little tangent, but I feel it helps, with this story. So if you're anything like me, and, are sketchy with mirrors, then you'd understand, you wouldn't put a mirror in front of you. Like, I mean, I know I wouldn't. So this young girl puts a mirror in front of her, and as she's typing away one day, she feels a pair of hands touch her, and so she decides to look into the mirror and looks up and sees something touching her that wasn't her coworkers, wasn't her boss. It was just something out of this world. And according to the person that told me the story, that same afternoon, I mean, that girl went pale white. The color from her body just left her, whatever she saw. I mean, because she refused to tell anyone what she did see, but we can only imagine what was touching her. I mean, if Brownsville is rich in history, I am pretty sure there are lingering souls around, you know, something that hasn't left this earth. And if that was a fort, can you imagine what she saw standing behind her, touching her shoulder? I mean, I can think of maybe someone who's headless, maybe a headless soldier, maybe a wounded soldier, you know, anything, right? So she saw her, whatever she did, refused to tell anyone what she did see. We just know that she saw something and it scared her, petrified her so much that she quit her job. She said, forget this. I don't need this job. I can go work anywhere else. I want to get away from this college as much as possible. So she left. So the person who worked there, told me the story and, conveyed to me just how creepy it was to work there. And I never really understood how creepy it was until I became a student there. I live close to the downtown area. So I'm used to the history of this area. I'm used to the history of the city. Often went on to the history museum. It was just the way I was brought up. We'd go to the library, we'd go to the history museum, we'd go visit the college, and I was just, accustomed to that. But I guess because I didn't spend long hours there, that I didn't understand what it was like to actually be there. I became a student, and all of a sudden my hours changed from just a small, maybe 30 minute visit to an hour visit to being there almost the full day. And what I experienced at the university / college, depending on where you were and, the time of the year that you went there, when I first started, it was still Texas Southmost College and the University of Texas at Brownsville. So they were still together, and I did get to use the TSC College library. I honestly don't remember the name at the moment. I'm really drawing the blank here. I've been trying to think of it this entire time, and I can't, I think it's the Arnulfo Oliveira Library, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, feel free to correct me in the comments. Send me a message. I love, to hear when I've made a mistake. It's critiquing, it's what it is. It's not, it's what it is. Just critique me, please. Be gentle. So anyways, I started going to school there, and the more I spent time there, the more I experienced what other people had experienced before me. And you would feel a touch of a hand. You would feel a tap. You'd hear doors open and close, and there would be no one around. And it's this creepy feeling, very ghostly feeling, honestly. And if you don't think about it, you try to reason it as in, it was the wind, it might have been someone else, maybe it was a duck, and a numerous amount of things that it could have been, right? But when you know the history of the area, you have to ask yourself, was it a ghost? Was it something else? Am I imagining things? And if I am imagining things, why is my mind taking me there? And if we're honest with ourselves, and I am honest with myself, I tell myself my mind is going there because I believe in these things. I believe in ghosts. I believe in, the supernatural. I believe that there is something out there that we can't explain, whether it's cryptids, like Bigfoot and the Mothman, the Jersey Devil, the Chupacabras, but everything is based off a little kernel of truth. We have our, leyendas from, that our grandmothers would tell us about La Llorona, I remember growing up in school and kids would talk about La Mano Pachona. And no joke that, I was in, 3rd, 4th grade and kids would talk about that and I would freak out. I'm like, hey, why are we talking about this, But the more I talked about it, the more it grasped me and brought me into this world of just a supernatural, you would say. and I loved it, and I still love it, which is why I create this podcast, because I want to share that love for this I guess mystical world with you, because it doesn't have to be scary and spooky. It's inviting, it's intriguing. Let's get into the history behind it. Why is that there? What could have happened? These are the things that sometimes people don't touch upon, and it's good to know. It's like, okay, well, what could have caused this girl to freak out so hard that she quit? I mean, probably a ghost. I mean, I assume it's a ghost of a soldier wounded in war, and I mean, it's possible, right? So I want to share this world with you, and this idea comes from a long... Yes, it was kind of a sudden idea that popped into my head, but it was also something that's been building. Anyone that knows me knows that if you're in my car has no radio. So you have just your thoughts and me. And often I like to think out loud. So we're driving somewhere, and for my job, I do drive around a lot. So I'm around the city of France. So I'm around Cameron County a lot. So I do see a lot of different things. And as I'm driving, sometimes, I have people shadowing me, learning from what I do, right? And as we're driving, they'll be like, asking me, well, what happened with your car? Why it has no radio? And it's like, well, I don't know. One day it just stopped working, and I didn't bother to get it fixed. I mean, I'm happy without the radio. I can use my phone, but when you drive around as much as I do for work, it's just best not to use your phone, because you don't want to run out of battery in the middle of nowhere and then need to call for help, right? So, anyways, as I'm driving around, depending on where I'm at the city, I'll be like, hey, what would you do if you are in this car by yourself and there's no air condition, windows are down, and you stop there at that stoplight and you look at that abandoned house and you just see someone peek through a little crack in those window boards? What would you do? And the moment I ask that, man, people start freaking out. They're like, oh my God, why would you bring that idea up in my head? Now it's going to stay there. And I mean, I think of this and it's like, well, what would I do? I mean, honestly, if it were me, I'd freak out. I'd be like, oh my gosh, what is that? What is waving at me? I mean, I'm hoping it's a homeless person, I mean, these are the ideas that come to me. So I'm curious, what would this other person do? Whoever it is, and I often ask this. So if you are in the car with me, be prepared to be asked, what would you do if you are in at a stoplight and you see an abandoned house and someone peeks out and waves at you? And really, what would you do? Comment down below and let me know. I mean, I'm curious. What would you do in that situation? So anyone that drives with me has gotten used to that, and that idea, kind of blossomed into this. I want to put my thoughts out there. Maybe not everyone is interested in them, and that's fine. I don't have to be everyone a cup of coffee. Some people like tea, and that's fine. Honestly, great coffee. Get yourself some. And you have to ask yourself, is this world for me? Well, why not? We all live here. We all inhabit it here. So why can't you get a little taste of, something spooky? And this isn't going to be a limited podcast, just for the fall season. This is something I want to develop into something bigger. Grow it. I want to grow it. Sorry that this first episode's a little everywhere, but that's just how I think sometimes. My thoughts are just everywhere sometimes. And for the next episode, I do plan to be a little bit more structured, but not too structured, because I want to bring the comfort of sitting around the table, drinking coffee with your abuelita, or some chocolate, some champurrado, something, sitting around the table with her and her sharing those leyendas with you, telling you scary stories, el señor, que te iba a llevar. And you're like, no, 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 I'm going to behave, because he's coming with his, sack, and he's going to take you if you don't behave, right? So I enjoyed those stories, hearing my grandma talk to me about, unos dichos and just the Spanish folklore. That really resonated with me. I'm blessed to still have my grandmother around. But I know many people don't have that, and I kind of want to bring that back to them. So this is what this podcast is about. Sitting around the coffee table, drinking our coffee, making this a conversation, and just diving in to the realm of ghosts, mysticism, and what lies in the beyond, talking about that, and having fun with it, seeing where it goes. It doesn't have to be structured, it doesn't have to be scary. It's just something fun and interesting to talk about and just see where our thoughts take us. So if you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you did, please like and subscribe. Your likes help keep this page going, and I appreciate that. Check us out on Instagram if you don't follow us there already. You can follow us at GalakasPod. As well, send me an email. I would love to hear your stories. Our email is galakaspod@gmail.com. Check out our website at galakaspod.com. Just in case you need that spelled out for you, I'll go ahead and spell it for you. It's CALACASPOD.com. galakaspod.com. Okay? So, check us out, like and subscribe, and thank you for joining me today on Coffee and Galakas. Thanks.